Getting a patient safely to a medical appointment looks simple from the outside. The vehicle pulls up, the patient boards, and the trip begins. This is non-emergency medical transportation, or NEMT. It is specialized transport designed to help people reach healthcare services when ordinary transit isn't an option, operating entirely outside the 911 emergency response system. But when coordination breaks down, the consequences are immediate. Patients miss critical specialist visits, caregivers face immense stress, and facilities face severe discharge bottlenecks. A successful ride actually doesn't start when the vehicle is put into drive. It begins long before the van ever arrives, through a process of proactive ride readiness. The biggest trap in healthcare transport is the assumption that simply scheduling a vehicle means the trip is fully secured. NEMT is a shared responsibility. No one controls the entire process. It relies on active coordination between the patient, healthcare facility, and transport provider. When any party relies on assumptions, critical information falls through the cracks, leading to dispatch errors and severe delays. Avoiding upfront administrative effort might feel efficient in the moment, but it directly causes massive facility bottlenecks and strips vulnerable patients of a dignified experience. To avoid those breakdowns, the first step is accurately assessing the passenger's physical reality before selecting a vehicle type. This chart shows how mobility inputs dictate the outcome. The provider must know, is the wheelchair manual or power? Can it fold? Can the patient transfer to a seat? Supplying these exact dimensions ensures dispatch sends the correct vehicle and securement systems. Gathering these equipment dimensions takes a few extra minutes up front, but it entirely eliminates the risk of a van arriving that the patient physically cannot board. Stakeholders should never select a mode just because it is convenient to book. Precision here prevents physical barriers to care. Next is the pickup logistics. A massive medical campus might have one primary address, but 5 different entrances separated by half a mile of traffic. The timeline requires the same precision. A medical procedure may start at 10 a.m., but if check-in is required at 9:15, that earlier window dictates the transportation schedule. Getting to the appointment is only half the equation. The return trip often fails because no one explicitly assigns who requests the right home. Here are the 2 options for getting back: scheduled versus will call. Scheduled returns guarantee a pickup time, but fail if an appointment runs late. Will call offers flexibility for unpredictable wait times, but the patient must wait for an available vehicle based on capacity. Mapping out exact entrance locations and clearly assigning the return trip strategy prevents the worst-case scenario, leaving a vulnerable patient stranded at an unattended exit. For healthcare facility coordinators managing hospital discharges, transportation planning carries additional regulatory weight. The balance here relies on the minimum necessary requirement, sharing enough data to keep the driver safe while strictly protecting patient privacy. Transport providers don't need the entire medical history. They need operational facts, manual transfer requirements, authorized escorts, or accompanying equipment like an oxygen tank. On the timing side, facilities often fall into an operational trap. Waiting until every single discharge task is completely finished before booking transport creates massive wait times. The solution is a staged approach. Begin transportation planning early. Communicate an estimated readiness window to the dispatcher and update them as the discharge progresses. Filtering information smartly and using staged planning clears out facility bottlenecks without violating patient rights or compromising driver safety. This is the reality of a missed detail: a patient waiting indefinitely because a variable changed and nobody spoke up. Healthcare is unpredictable. Appointments end early, mobility equipment gets swapped out, or patients require unexpected admission. When those variables change, silence does not preserve the original transportation plan. It only guarantees a total logistical breakdown later in the day. The defense is closed-loop confirmation. This model requires that information is received, understood, and acknowledged by all parties. Feeding early schedule changes into this loop lets the dispatcher swap vehicles or adjust routing before a driver is sent to an empty room. Providing early notice and demanding closed-loop acknowledgement gives the transport team the necessary time to actually adapt and save the trip. To turn these principles into practice, we can map out specific responsibilities based on your role. For patients and caregivers, this checklist is built around personal readiness and keeping stress levels low. Your priority is confirming the required arrival time, locating the exact building entrance, and mapping out the specific strategy for your return trip before you leave home. Caregivers must explicitly communicate the presence of any service animals, authorized escorts, and the exact dimensions of all mobility equipment traveling with the patient. Proactively investing in these seemingly small details up front buys a highly dignified, low-stress healthcare experience on the day of the appointment. For healthcare facility staff, the focus shifts to streamlining operations and executing clear liability handoffs. The healthcare facility checklist prioritizes discharge efficiency and strict regulatory compliance. Facility coordinators need to verify that the transportation mode matches the authorized clinical need, utilize stage delay reporting to keep dispatch informed, and execute clear, acknowledged handoffs at the door. No checklist can stop a sudden traffic jam or an unexpected medical emergency, but strict adherence to these steps stops completely preventable human errors from compounding. This is what a successful operation looks like: clear communication, accurate vehicle dispatch, and a patient who feels secure. The ride does not begin when the wheels turn. It begins the moment everyone involved commits to replacing assumptions with verified, closed-loop facts.